Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Bain and I am the web developer who created WordPress Data Importer. This is actually the first video for the plugin, and I would like to begin my range of videos by introducing the plugin and its features without any demonstration. There are far too many tools in WordPress Data Importer to create a single video that shows how to use every feature, and a single video would result in a very long video. So there will be individual videos explaining how to use the features that you may require or may not. There is a minimum number of forms to submit in the plugin in order to import data and create posts. There's a very small number of forms to do that, and so everything you see in this video should be accepted as optional features. Try to avoid getting too deep into the plugin if you feel your project is simple. If you feel at any time that you are a little lost, please ask for help. I'm always here. I'm online, especially if you have purchased the plugin. Obviously no one will be using the plugin if you haven't purchased it, but if you have any questions without purchase, obviously I will answer to the best of my ability. If you have any project requirements and you would like to express them, then I will do my best to confirm whether or not WordPress Data Importer will do the job. In most cases it will, because the plugin has a lot under the hood, so to speak. There is a lot of power in the plugin that has not been brought to the interface yet, and I often find myself simply adding a form to make use of some of the code that already exists when someone feels there is something a little missing. So I've done a lot of work in terms of coding that may not be totally transparent at this time. So that's the investment that you would be getting when you purchase WordPress Data Importer, which is on the Envato marketplace. You can find it on Code Canyon, the Code Canyon section of Envato Market, and right now it's $20. For a further $6 you can extend support to 12 months. That's something I recommend if you plan a very complex project which autoblogs posts over that sort of period, and that way, for that very small fee, I'm available, I'm yours, and I can work with you. I will take a hands-on, and always take a hands-on approach by logging into blogs and helping you directly within your own website, especially if you're live, because your success is my success, and that's not a gimmick. That's the absolute truth of it. The more successful you are and the more successful your website is, the longer you will use the plugin and the more you will come back for more plugins, and therefore I'm all yours all of the time, as long as the support license has not expired, obviously. Now, here we go. Let's go through some of the features in WordPress Data Importer. The first thing I want to make very clear is the plugin's ability to add an endless number of widgets. Now, what we see here on the WordPress dashboard is just some of the possible widgets. Now, how is this possible, you ask? So many widgets. Well, I have created this plugin and all of my plugins so that they add any form from the plugin itself to the WordPress dashboard. As you can see, we can remove them if required. So I'm just hiding these. I don't want any of these shown on my dashboard at the moment. I like to keep my dashboard 100% empty. No, not really, but if you install the plugin for the first time, please know that those widgets do not appear instantly. There are options to make them appear, as you would expect. What is important to know is that while you're using the plugin, if you find one of these boxes here that displays information or offers a form, which I will often refer to as a tool, if you find one of those, then remember you can add it to your dashboard, and therefore it makes your job of administrating your website on a daily or weekly basis that little bit easier, and that obviously is the point of widgets and the point of the dashboard. Now, here we are. This is where it gets interesting, folks. We're on the All Data Sources section. I call these sections because there's just so much happening within this plugin, and there's a lot more to come as well. So we need some jargon to help round it all off. This section is all about setting up data sources. Now, while I develop WordPress Data Importer, I'm thinking about the long term. I'm thinking about businesses, especially the ones I've worked with in the past, using data over very long periods of time. And I do mean years, not just weeks or months. Some companies will use the plugin over a number of years, auto-blogging, generating posts over those years, and simply generating more content automatically. And that's something we can all do with just about any data we can get our hands on. Now, at the moment, the plugin is very heavily based on CSV files, so we can upload a CSV file, a brand new CSV file, create a brand new data source. We can modify existing data sources with CSV files and all sorts of things with CSV files. That will change eventually. There will be a lot of XML support, just as much XML support as there is for CSV files, and support for APIs, especially the new REST API built into the WordPress core. So the plugin aims to import data from any source that you require a plugin to import data from. What's important to be, there's a little performance issue, and as you can see here, Windows Vista, and that's I've been saying to people online, I'm still on Windows Vista, and I wonder if people believe me, because I'm often trying to get new hardware, and yes, I'm on Windows Vista because I'm still a startup company. Now, where was I? I was talking about sources and the fact that when we create a new source and import data, the data is imported to a new database table. That database table is automatically generated for you. The table reflects the data source itself, so all the fields in your source will be added to the table as new columns. And the reason we do that is to give ourselves a place to prepare data further. So by doing that in a professional manner, I believe it's safer and more professional than importing data directly to WordPress core tables. Even if we have scripts in place to validate data and even modify it, as this plugin does do, I still feel that the data needs to arrive in a custom table, and then we work with that data from there, and it allows a vast array of options and abilities that other plugins do not offer. Now, that is data tools covered. I'm not going to go through every form, etc. It's just important to understand the concept that we're working with, and that our data source is a long-term thing that we can manage and modify. Obviously, it's a place where it points to the location where the data is, which is important when working with many data sources. It's not always possible to remember, especially if you are using sources from different types of location. You may have a source that is being imported via URL, whereas another source may be more local, already on the server, and eventually there will be other methods of sources such as APIs, SOAP and REST, etc. I'll go over to all projects. All projects is an area that allows us to work on all projects that we create. Very similar to campaigns. Many plugins of this nature will offer campaigns. It's much the same. I went with projects so that my plugin stands out. The interface stands out as being its own, but it's also important because data sources and projects are separate. When we create a new project like this one here, and we can select specific settings for that project, we also get to select a data source. Now, under the hood, as I mentioned earlier, there are things under the hood that we do not see on the interface just yet. Under the hood of the plugin, we have the ability for a project to use multiple data sources, and the project can take fields from different sources and use them to build posts. That's a very important ability. We can do some amazing things with that ability, but it's not yet on the interface. The forums for that aren't yet there, but it is a reminder of what is to come very soon, because it won't take long to create the tools to make use of the code. Now, projects is all about that long-term management again, and a project is much like a campaign. The campaign is more about the project with the data source, and then the group of settings and configuration that you apply. So all of that together could be considered a campaign. There's just no easy way to express that on the interface, and as I have already mentioned, I need very specific jargon to lay this plugin out in front of everyone. I'm now on the current project view, which is the first screen to remind us that when we are configuring the plugin on these views here, project data, categories, design, meta, and create, these sections are project specific. So we basically set up our first project, that project becomes our current project. When we create our second project, your second project becomes your current project by default, but we can switch back to the previous project using these buttons here, previous project and next project, and whichever project we switch to is classed as our current project, and the entire interface changes to show us the data, configuration and information about that project, because there is a massive wealth of data being generated, especially in the log, and if we begin to use automation, scheduling, etc., then we generate data so that we can confirm that the plugin is doing its job and things like that. So I am currently on Easter testing 1, obviously that was back at Easter, and this list here confirms that I've not used much at all. All of these information icons indicate that I've not set any of these things up. These will change to show icons much like these ones at the bottom. I have set up a default title template, and it also says default title template required. I think your main default title template, you need to tell. Right, okay, so there's a little mistake there. That should say default content template, and it would be the one at the bottom. That's probably why I've kept missing it, as we do. So I'll get that done after this video. But you get the point. The point is a nice list that allows us to just quickly check that we've applied the features that we need to. And you'll be seeing right now, this is the first of you seeing all of the various things that the plugin offers, featured images and URL cloaking, etc. Those are the things I do plan to quickly run through in the video. It's already an extensively long video discussing the plugin, and I'm quite happy with that. This is the introduction, not just to the features, but myself as a developer and what you're investing in. Let me just go over to project data. So the project data section allows us to focus on setting up rules to prepare the data for that specific project. Based on those project rules, we prepare the data, which means modifying the data as it is being imported. Now some of that needs to be made a little clearer. You know, when, at what point, or what features modify data during import, what features modify data during post creation. I need to maybe find an icon or a way of making that clear, because we do have the two different approaches. These rules here will prepare your data as it is being imported. We can do all sorts of things, numeric, and we can have conditional statements that basically make all sorts of alterations to our data, whatever you want, whatever you feel you need. Especially when it comes to validating data that you didn't or your company did not create. That it is very important that we ensure data, massive amounts of data that we import from a third-party source, is as we expect, and if not, it is flagged, or individual records are flagged for our attention, and that is possible in this plugin also. Here I want to point out something. It is the data splitter feature. It allows us to take one of those columns where we have, say, 2 or 3 category terms in a single column. There is an affiliate network, I think it may be Commission Junction, that provides affiliate data with categories in a single field, and it's not always great when importing data or any other use really. You need the tools to separate the data properly, and that's what this is. We can separate the data, but what's different about this tool is that, let me just hide this, WordPress MU Dev, the data won't just be separated on a temporary basis. I've made the plugin put the data into separate columns in the database table that I spoke about earlier, and that's so that we can perform searches and other advanced abilities on that data. So it will actually separate the data for the long term, and maybe you can think of many things we can do with those individual columns of category data. Here we have basic importing. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I've discussed the general idea of data and importing, and a lot of this really is self-explanatory. You're all smart people, I know you are, so I don't need to go into that in too much depth. Here we have the category section. There's only 2 tabs in here, but trust me, with all the ideas floating around in my head, and not just floating around, I have a very strong development plan that will last at least 2 years, even with weekly updates. There are a lot of features to come. I've designed the plugin so that I can add new tabs, add new features without upsetting the existing interfaces, and therefore I will avoid confusing users, and that's the idea right there. So more tabs will appear, and you, if you're happy with what the plugin as it is, you can ignore those new tabs when you update the plugin. It's that simple. So the category settings, the initial category tab is category settings, and this is where we make a selection of fields. I don't have great fields in my test data for categories, but it doesn't matter. The important thing to understand is we select our categories and levels. When we submit this form here, more forms appear, including category mapping, which allows us to map terms to each other. We don't need to use this. It should really only be used, well actually, I recommend using it. However, you only need to use it if your terms and your data are not a 100% match to the terms that are already in your blog. So if there's a slight difference in category names or titles, whatever you wish to call them, you need to pair them up to tell the plugin what categories relate to each other. Now I actually have a task at the moment on my to-do list that requires this form to be improved because it doesn't make the different levels clear enough in the data. I won't go into that, but just be aware that improvements are coming. Category creation, a couple of simple buttons, and there is a table here that shows any uncategorized posts that have been generated by WordPress Data Importer. Now, tools like this or information like this are very important because we need them when we need them. Alright, which basically means if something does go wrong, and when working with data things can easily go wrong, and it could just simply be 2 or 3 records that have some bad data in them, and it causes problems with your configuration, etc. And we need to know about it very quickly. So that's one of the things I think about when developing the plugin, adding information that allows us to catch these issues and not leave you puzzled. The last thing I want are records to go unused simply because there's a value of data, there's a value in your data that is causing a hiccup. I would rather detect that, and so So it's not just tools being added, but information will appear on the plugins interface that will hopefully help you, get the most out of your data. That's what it's all about, and that's where the true value in WordPress Data Importer is and will continue to be. Now, here I am on probably one, if not the most interesting and even exciting areas of the plugin. Here we have all the common options. As you can see, we can select a field for, we can select a default author. Somewhere in the plugin we can actually set up, we can use data. Here it is here actually. We can use email address data and username data to generate authors, and they will be applied to posts appropriately. Here we have tag options. Alright, but what I really want to go to is content. Here is the title template. So title template includes 2 column replacement tokens. You can add as many column replacement tokens as you wish. Those column replacement tokens will be replaced with your actual data, and as you can see, the plugin's interface offers a title sample, and this sample is based on my imported data, which is gaming PCs. Alright, so we can get a glimpse of what is expected from the templates that we input. The same approach is used for a content template. So I'll just copy and paste this. I'm just going to quickly make a point rather than demonstrate the whole thing working. If I pasted this into my content template, then my resulting posts would look something like that. That would be the content, and that is how it works. A lot of users do struggle with the concept of how that works, and they ask about the column replacement tokens being replaced per record, and that is the case. But there are a number of other questions that led me to realise when I was just starting as a developer that if we're not technical minded, some of these new concepts, they are hard to take on board, and I totally understand that now. So what you need to do is just give it a go. Seriously, there's nothing you can break, providing you're on a test blog. If you're not working on a test blog, I seriously recommend it. Get yourself on a test blog so that you can feel free to play around with any plugin, especially a plugin that is as powerful as WordPress Data Importer. Copy and paste all of your tokens from here and put them in the editor, and then attempt to create posts, providing you have imported data. So attempt to create posts and see what happens. Any issues, contact me. Now here we have the syntax test, which is a little hint to what the plugin can or does offer in terms of syntax. We have a group import local images feature, all about mass importing images. So there's a whole lot of things going on in there. Then we have the dates tab, which allows us to not only configure date ranges and import dates that we already have, but we can force the WordPress blog to schedule posts simply by forcing a start date in the future. And by doing that, when we generate posts, they are all automatically scheduled by WordPress, and from there on they will be handled by WordPress and displayed at the appropriate time based on the generated dates. As I said, videos will go into these things more deep, in a deeper fashion, so please have a look for those videos if you need to know more. Here we have post types. Post types are fully supported. We have the ability to trigger specific post types. We will use specific post types for certain records, and that will be based on values. I'm hoping to set up the ability to apply post types based on a range of values and not just one value. For example, the values in a number of fields. So there's all those improvements to come as well. Replace value rules. This is one of the few rules that happens during post creation, which is important if we do not want to modify our original data. If you would like to leave your original data alone, we can apply rules during post creation, and this is one of them. This is a replace value rule, which simply mass replaces all of the values that we state in a selected column with the value that we enter here, and there's no end to what we can do with even this rule, but more rules on this view. So if there's anything you need, let me know and I will happily add it. Now let's go over to meta, which can be exciting, but it's not as exciting as it is important. This is a critical ability in any plugin of this nature. Meta is also known as custom fields. Custom fields is actually the interface itself on the edit post screen, where we can add extra information to our posts. The information or the data that we add on that screen actually becomes metadata. So they're all part of the same thing. That's what's important to know. We can use this as if we are using the custom field forms themselves. So we enter a name, and down here in the WYSIWYG editor we can enter a value. The value can be column replacement tokens, and we can use 1 to enter a single value. So if I wanted to create a custom field named price, which many e-commerce themes will use, then that's all I do. I would submit that, and that's the rule right there. I can tell WordPress Data Importer, see up here, I actually named it WordPress CSV Importer initially, and that's why I said that. It just caught my eye there. So WordPress Data Importer will update individual custom field values, so it will update your meta, or it won't. It's entirely up to you. Some meta needs to always stay the same, even if the source data is changing. Sometimes we require the value to change when the source data has changed, and that updating ability exists along with the ability to update the entire post. Alright, unique, that's basically telling the plugin if this is a custom field or meta value that is unique and can only exist once for that post. Right, I think that covers that, apart from this table down here for managing your existing custom fields. And as you can see, there is a box here with ShopperPress on it. That's just a little hint to the support I would like to set up in this plugin for individual themes. If you have the ShopperPress theme active, then this box would appear. If you have another theme active, then this box here would be hidden, and that's the approach that I plan to take. So if you would like a little more support for your theme, just to help you understand the plugin or help your staff understand the plugin, I'm totally up for doing that at any time. So here we have the Taxonomies tab, which is one of the more complex features in WordPress. I won't go into this in detail. We select our fields here to set up as taxonomies and so on. Other forms will become available when you make that selection. At the moment, the taxonomies view is slightly disappointing to me. I wish I had done more to it already before putting WordPress Data Importer on the Envato marketplace for sale. However, sometimes we do need to get a product out there and get it some attention while we continue to develop it. I will add more to the taxonomies view. I have recently been working with jQuery, UI and Ajax to improve my plugins interfaces and make them more enjoyable. One of the views that requires that more than any is taxonomies, so that we can drag and drop and reorder things on the screen very quickly and reduce the number of forms that we need to submit. So all of that is coming. It's already in the works. Click create. WordPress Data Importer creation tools. We can create posts. This will normally be up the top when you first install the plugin. This form here, create posts. We can create missing posts should someone accidentally delete posts, but you're not even sure which posts were permanently deleted, but you are aware that they are related to WordPress Data Importer. Then we can recreate those posts, and that is just one of many tools that help us get out of sticky situations created by human error or error by third-party plugins that we integrate. We can update posts here, and as you can see, we can enter a value and tell the plugin how many to update or how many posts to create and so on. So it's all about things happening at your pace and giving you, the user, full control over what the plugin does. That is very important to me, and over the next few months you'll see features coming, especially the new schedule. I have a new schedule and automation class in the works, which will give us more control over not just scheduling in WordPress Data Importer, but it will take WordPress's overall scheduling into consideration. I'll just show you the diagram. I opened that up to show. This is one of the things I've worked on in the last week. It is a diagram. So when I say I've worked on something, sometimes it may just be a diagram, and then I leave that diagram and I go and do some coding on something else, and then I come back to the diagram, have a look at it, and sort of decide, is that ready to go? And that's, so when I say I'm working on this, I'm working on that, and you're as if I'm multiple people. That's basically the process. Alright, so this is a glimpse. I wanted to show this because it is a glimpse of what is coming. I love working on this plugin, so it will be updated regularly. Let me just show you. That's not what I want to show you. It was versions actually. Here is a little group of zip files which shows I've released 2 versions just recently. Those were uploaded to the Envato market and sent to customers by email. So on a very low number of sales, because the plugin was just released, I'm already busy. I am updating the plugin, releasing new versions, as you can see, and hopefully keeping everybody happy. Alright, that's it. So a lot in there, and as I said, I think this video will be very long. Let me check. Let's bring this up. 33 minutes. Thank you for watching if you did happen to watch that entire video. I'm never sure what kind of video to make, should keep it short and sweet, as they say, or go into the sort of depth that I've went into, and even then I've not spoken about the plugin on a technical level or demonstrated it. So hopefully you can appreciate the amount of time and work that goes into a plugin of this nature, especially for someone who is, I have 3 children, 1 on the way. I have a startup business which is tough to get going, and as you've seen, if you watched the whole video, you would have seen the error indicating that I am on Vista, which is terrible. But these things give me incentive to work hard, make some money, and get my computer replaced, maybe Windows 10 or a Mac. We'll see.